Hello, great people. Um, of course, y'all know when you get one of these impromptu type of live uh, videos, you kind of have a feeling of what's to come. Um, I'm very transparent. I'm extremely transparent when it comes down to how I feel about certain things, and obviously, this is no different from any other time. Um, but of course, I got to get something off my chest. I have to. Um, because for me personally, it's becoming a huge, um, I wouldn't necessarily say burden, but more so extreme frustration. And these are the things that we see from Falcons fans. Well, I won't necessarily say see, but Falcons fans, this is the thing that we can continuously complain about on a daily basis, a yearly basis, and for damn near a decade. What is it that I'm talking about? What is it that, why is it that Mike had to stop on his usual day off to, how you doing, Agent? How you doing, sweetheart? But why is it that I had to, I typically take Saturdays off. So why is it that I had to say this today? And by the title of the video, stop. Falcons don't need a franchise quarterback. Now, why would I say that? Why would a guy that's been what a lot of people call a couple of terms, I'm Matt Ryanite, a that I every time something goes bad, I'm always capping for Matt Ryan and blah 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 this and blah blah. Why would a guy completely go against the grain? Why would I do that? Take a second to think about that, Falcons fans. And I want everybody's comment as far as that is concerned. Why would Mike say Falcons do not need a franchise quarterback? Why would Mike say that? And by the way, if you guys have haven't already, then please hit that like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Even if it's just um, you're not getting the updates, guys, because it kind of annoys you every time. You may be at work, sleep, or whatever, and you don't like getting all the the updates. Um, but the subscribe button really helps with the algorithm and really just helping us um, become that number one source. Because again, y'all already know it's a lot of negative activity surround not only the media but our own that's supposed to cover the Atlanta Falcons. But why would Mike all of a sudden say we don't need a franchise quarterback? Why? What? Like seriously, why would we say that? Why would I say that? I'm positive these guys know me well enough at this point, and you've seen quite a few videos for not only myself, K Styles, the Unholy Alliance, and excuse me, this fucking moron decides he wanna. I swear, people are so fucking stupid. Like you have the key to your own car. Why are you setting off your own? Like, yeah, I'm a little bit irritated right now. So why would I say that? Like, why would I say that? And I hear, and look, this is going to be about Kyler Murray. It's going to be about Matt Ryan. It's going to be about the position itself. And I'm not going to get any love for this. But again, if you know me, I could give two fucks about whether you love my opinion or not. I'm going to say it regardless. But the reality is this. The reality surrounding the position of quarterback is a bit overstated, overrated, and overhyped. When we talk about the quarterback and the position, the quarterback position has become a end all be all. It has become the most important position in all of football. Not only amongst the fans, but the media and how they want to grade your team and give you, you know, certain things as far as, you know, respect and whether or not you can become a champion. They want you to have the most exciting quarterback, the most intelligent quarterback, and they devalue and belittle every position on the field. I've seen games where kickers have determined entire seasons, games, championships, jobs from coaches. I've seen games where, and I'm sure you guys love this one. I've seen games where a certain team can't seem to stop the run. You were giving up 150 yards passing. You've given up 150 yards rushing. Like it's just no, like it's just no big deal. Oh, the Falcons just gave up another 130 yards, 150 yards, 200 yards, and it's just no big deal. Nobody cares. Why? Because our quarterback has 300 yards. Our quarterback has 3 touchdowns, maybe 1 or 2 interceptions, or no interceptions at all. Why? Because that's the position that matters most. And in a lot of people's eyes, if the quarterback plays well, yeah, they're happy, they're satisfied. That's what they came to see. Whether it's Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, all of that matters not. The defense in, inability to get sacks, and we're talking about a team, and this is where it baffles me. And again, this is not your typical rant from me, but it baffles me to see for years the Atlanta Falcons can't do anything defensively. They can't rush the passer. They can't stop the pass, even with pretty good talent. They can't get turnovers. And yet again, here we are in the same position. We need to go get a new quarterback. We need to trade all our picks, spend $50 million on a quarterback, and we can't stop the run. Big Sam said again, and I don't know how many times I'm going to continue to say this, but it's gonna become a broken record for me because I really want people to understand. 2,200 yards rushing. Does anybody know what that number is? Just you guys familiar with that number? I'm positive you guys are kind of familiar with that. 2,200 yards rushing. 2,200 yards rushing. And I'm kind of pissed off, but I'm like I said, I'm extremely pissed off. Believe it or not, I'm extremely pissed off. But I'm not. I'm gonna switch it up today for you guys. I'm pissed the hell off. I really am because I get comments. I see comments from. We're talking about big time, and I'm not even talking about just fans in itself. We're talking about players, not players, but we're talking about these media guys who are so intelligent. They're willing to sell their auntie, their cousin, their own baby just to get a quarterback. And then you want to cry about why the Falcons can't afford this and that. Why the Falcons can't afford to go out and shop in free agency. And then you go on our shows, the content creators, the podcasters, and then we complain on a daily, yearly basis. Mike, you're stupid. How can you say that? Matt Ryan is making $50 million. Mike, how can you say that? Drew Brees is making $50 million. It's not the quarterback's fault. So we go from blaming the quarterback because he's making 40 to $50 million to saying we need to do any and everything possible to trade for Kyler Murray. We need to do any and everything possible to trade for Deshaun Watson or whoever the quarterback. We need to take a quarterback who has yet to prove that he's any fucking good on any freaking level. And I'm talking about Malik Willis. And y'all know the great Chauncey, the OG Chauncey. He coached a young man. He has a pretty good relationship with his parents. Malik as well. He coached Malik. So he pretty much I could say he know these guys. So me not going off on him, you know, it's out of respect for Chauncey for the most part. But on a deeper level, this kid is just not ready. You're willing to mortgage the future and building a team the proper way, completely go right back to the same blueprint that got us in this predicament in the first place. Trading all our assets to get another quarterback. And this is the reason why I've quote unquote on a lot of people. I've changed tunes. Why all of a sudden Mike doesn't want to, another quote unquote quarterback? Well, it's because one thing, and forgive me if you guys feel disrespected in saying this, but the reason why I've changed my tune on the importance, quote unquote, importance of the quarterback position is because for years we've seen Matt Ryan do the exact same things every year, clutch performances, consistent 4,000 yard passing seasons, Again, let me repeat that. Consistent 4,000 yard passing seasons. And it equates to the same thing for the most part. Great offenses, good offenses. Top 10 offense, top 10, 15 offenses. But with that, the defenses have continuously been at the bottom of the league in sacks and stopping the run and stopping the pass. Hmm. I think a couple of people might know where I'm going with this. So if we can score 25 points a game, the Falcons, for the most part, under Matt Ryan, has scored somewhere between 23 and 25 points per game, which is well above the league average. About 20 points a game is about the league average. So the Falcons have historically, under Matt Ryan, have not only been around 500, but the Falcons have historically been absolute dog shit on the defensive side of the ball. And yet, we're trying to give away every draft pick, the future, and potentially, and again, this has no bearings on where what I want on the defensive side of the ball. Okay? This has no bearings on what I want. At the end of the day, I've been wrong about a lot of shit. Didn't see AJ Terrell, didn't like the pick. I sure as hell didn't like the tack pick. I sure as hell didn't like the Calvin Ridley pick. Got all that wrong. So it has no bearings on whether or not I want a Jordan Davis, Devin Lloyd, an offensive lineman, um, or a quarterback, or a cornerback. So it has no bearings on that. This live is a sort of PSA, public service announcement, because from a fan base, from a creator base, journalists, podcasters, your YouTube, we're going down the same fucking rabbit hole, saying the same dumb shit that got us into this position to begin with. Let's trade away, let's trade all our assets so we can perhaps get more draft picks for quarterbacks that may not even be any good. Who the hell is in college is worth any fucking thing right now? Excuse my language. But who in the hell in college is worth a damn thing? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, Bryce Young had one of the worst championship games I've seen from a Heisman Trophy winner in quite some time. And somehow, we want to trade away all the assets. We want to get away from guys that could very well be, that could aid in this Falcons team as far as being a team. Okay? Excuse me for that. But a team can aid at being a team. And what I mean by being a team is having balance on both offense, defense, special teams. And one of the things that the Falcons have always struggled with this, whether it's on the offensive side of the ball, defense side of the ball, they've always been one dimensional. Offensively, we were a legendary passing offense. Matt Ryan has put up nearly 60,000 passing yards in his tenure with the Atlanta Falcons. I'm talking about legendary. The great Julio Jones. is without a doubt one of the most talented wide receivers in the history of the game. Roddy White, Tony Gonzalez had some of the best wide offensive linemen. Not great, but we have some damn good offensive linemen throughout this tenure. But we've been extremely one dimensional. We can pass the ball, but we can't run the ball. Defensively, sometimes we're a good run stopper, run stuffing team, even under Mike Smith. We can stop the run under Mike Smith, but we were highly inconsistent at getting a pass rush, a consistent pass rush. If it wasn't for Johnny Abraham, we'd probably be the absolute worst pass rushing defense if it wasn't for Johnny Abraham. So when you have a team that's you can't get up the quarterback, you can't stop the run, you can't get turnovers, offensively, you can't run the ball, you can pass the ball, and your offensive line is inconsistent. And again, anybody feel personally attacked, this is about everybody's comments. So if you feel attacked, like Big Sam say, hit dog holler. But I'm talking about everybody. Fans, the media, writers, podcasters, content creators of all sorts. So this is just not direct at one particular person. The Falcons team needs to be balanced. We're talking about creating a team where there's very little holes on either side of the ball. And the reason why I say this is the reason why I'm totally against the fact of trading assets away so in the future we can, get the quarterback that we possibly need. I'm not willing to do that because I've seen two teams, three teams be consistent. And these two teams, I'm just going to say these two teams, right? And these teams are in the AFC. The first team I'm going to name is one of the greatest defenses and greatest teams I've ever seen like assembled. Nothing was sexy about how they got things done, but they got things done. And I'm talking about the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens, what a lot of people don't know, they didn't have a lot of sacks. They had guys that had 10 sacks and 15 sacks here and there. And primarily, it was just one or two guys on those defenses that had those big sack numbers. But for the most part, the Baltimore Ravens were a team that stopped the run and they ran the ball. And for years, that has been the the sign for success, the model for success. Yeah, that's been a model for success for that, for those guys. For years. We're talking about decades. They've never had really a franchise quarterback. When's the last time Baltimore had a franchise quarterback? I'll wait. Yeah, come on. Somebody tell me. When's the last time they had a franchise quarterback and say, all right, this guy is the chosen one? Hmm. They've had extremely solid quarterbacks. Yeah. Never have the Baltimore Ravens have had a franchise quarterback. They've had very good quarterbacks that was able to do their job and not make a ton of mistakes and allow the defense to do what they do best. That's what Baltimore has done. And let's just keep it real. This is no disrespect to Big Ben, but Big Ben is not a Hall of Famer. That's just my opinion. I think he is Terry Bradshaw. Very good quarterback, but he only had a few years where he was one of the top quarterbacks in the league like that. And I'm talking about elite. Nobody would ever say Big Ben was an elite quarterback. Never. So Big Ben did what he was supposed to do and be a solid quarterback and just get the job done. Won 2 Super Bowls playing like absolute dog shit. This man played like absolute dog shit, and he still got 2 Super Bowls, and Pittsburgh were consistently in the playoffs. Why? Because they built the team the right way with depth. They were one of the most balanced teams in the league for years. They could pass the ball for a couple of 4,000 yards, and they could have a running back that ran for consistently over 1,000 yards. And they did this for years. This has been decades for the Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore. And then you have current teams like the Baltimore Ravens. Again, the same blueprint. Lamar Jackson is a very good quarterback. I don't think he's an elite quarterback, but I think he's a very good quarterback. He can do enough to get you to a Super Bowl, and he can do enough to win you a Super Bowl. But that team is built on his ability to run and their ability to run the ball offensively. Defensively, it's the same philosophy. Stop the run so we can get in third and long, send the blitzes, and get our pass rushes out. So this is why those guys have been able to continuously have solid teams because they base their teams on balance and not so much put so much emphasis on getting these top quarterbacks like a Matt Ryan. You know, a lot of these quarterbacks been drafted in the first round, the Kyler Murray and all this. Like they don't put a lot of emphasis on getting those types of quarterbacks. Why? It's because they take their time and they build the team the proper way with balance and very little weaknesses on both sides of the ball. They have great offensive lines. They have pretty good wide receivers and good running backs, great tight ends, and the defensive side of the ball. They have a great defensive line, good linebackers, and good secondary. I don't remember the last time that Baltimore or Pittsburgh has ever given up 3, 4, 5 picks just so they can go up and get the quarterback, a la the Chicago Bears. We got a team, and quite frankly, I know it's probably upset a lot of people, and the San Francisco 49ers. When I tell you that Jimmy G is probably the worst starting quarterback, and that's just my opinion. I don't think the guy's very good at all. Just don't. Don't think Jimmy G is very good at all. The San Francisco 49ers have won almost 40 games under the tenure of Kyle Shanahan. Why? Because they run the ball well and they play solid defense. And one thing that I'm ashamed of, and I think they should be ashamed of also, is that you gave up all your assets for Trey Lance, and he's not even playing. So what did that trade up for the 49ers really do? Right now, the 49ers are sitting in a position where they're looking for to sign a Julio Jones, the great Rumbo Sports. You guys can check him out. He's a 49er content creator. I watch him a lot. But these guys over here are looking for another receiver because guess what? He did exactly what the hell I thought he was going to do. Kyle Shanahan, he sees a great player and he runs him into the damn ground. He did it to Julio. He did it to um a guy like Josh Gordon. He did it to several running backs in his tenure. I mean, you go back into the days of Houston, those guys always, running those running backs. Let's go. I forget the guy who had the podcast. It'll come to me. But the running back, he kind of like have a upright style of running. I'll get it real soon. But they always have a tendency to run a lot of these players into the ground, and then these players want their money, and then they end up wanting to trade. So now the 49ers in a position where they might have to trade Debo because Debo want his money. Why? Because he been ran through the fucking ground. But the San Francisco 49ers don't have a quarterback that you would consider a franchise quarterback. Trading up for the 49ers has done nothing to get them over the hump. In fact, trading up for the 49ers have taken assets. Players have left because they traded up to get those quarterbacks. The same thing for Chicago. Chicago's franchise is what? I think they got like 60, $70 million in dead cap because they decided they wanted to trade up for a quarterback that allegedly was going to get them over a hump. And now that team is worse off than what they were in the beginning. So why is it that Falcons fans want us to repeat a model that is always and at the point like it's showing us that it's not a very successful model? Why do we want to trade for a Kyler Murray when that model has shown us that it's been unsuccessful? And just this year alone, in the last couple of years alone, that model has proven to fail. Hmm. Interesting, right? So the reason for creating this show it isn't to say you guys are wrong, you're stupid for your opinion. It's to make people think logically. Stop with your emotions. Yeah, and people probably looking at the screen right now and saying, "What do you mean? Your name is Mad Mike. You talking to somebody about emotions?" Hmm. Yeah, I am. If anybody's more qualified to say anything about emotions, it's yours truly. A lot of you people are emotional because you sit all day in front of the whatever screen, phone, TV, and you watch highlights of players, and we fall in love with all these players and say the Falcons got to give up. I don't give what they do. we got to give up. We got to trade up to get this guy, even if it costs us picks in the future, picks in the present. We got to get that one guy. Don't care about whether or not we'll be able to double up on the defensive side of the ball or double up on the offensive side of the ball on a position. Nope, we got to get rid of all of that so we can get that one particular player. Instead of being in a position where a guy who is going to add something to our team and help our team be more balanced rather than being dominant on one side of the ball. The Falcons have needed balance for quite some time. When you go back to both our Super Bowl runs, it wasn't that the Falcons, it wasn't that the Falcons in '98 had a great passing team. They was all great passers. It wasn't the fact that 2016 that the Falcons were one of the most explosive offenses in the history of the game. It wasn't that. That was one thing that was one thing. I'm talking about one thing that they had that a lot of people just glossing over the fact. And we're talking about guys that I respect as just people. You guys supported me, from the beginning. 2018, when I really got serious about this as being a creator. But, off and on from 16, I would throw videos on here and there, you know. But you guys have been there with me since the beginning, and you guys are glossing over the fact that the Falcons have had one thing consistently in both of those years. And no, it's not defense. The Falcons had one thing consistent in 2016 and '98. That's ability to run the ball, to control the clock, which in both of those years aided the defense in their ability to have that stamina at the end of the game so they can get more sacks. That's the blueprint. I don't see how you guys don't see it. It's been the blueprint. Both years the Falcons went to the Super Bowls, both Super Bowl teams. These guys have these guys have done the same thing, and we still wondering what the hell is why the Falcons can't get back to the Super Bowl. Well, they're not running the ball well, and they're not controlling the clock. So in order to control the clock, you got to be able to give these guys more opportunities on the defense side of the ball to rush the passer and put the offense in the position where they have to pass. So anytime you put that team and the offense in a position to pass the ball, guess what? That's more opportunities for the defense to get sack opportunities. And the more depth that you have with your defensive linemen, the more defensive traits that you have, and you're not one dimensionally as a defensive line in its entirety, you can adjust. One of the things the Falcons haven't had, yeah, we had Vic B, we had Tack McKinley, we had Adrian Claiborne, we had Grady Jarrett, we had Freeney. But even you go back to that 16 defensive line, the Falcons have the ability to adapt. They had everything. They had their run stuffer and Rashid Hayman. He was the big, fat, sloppy dude that I love so much. They had the fast, quirky guys. You had the tough guys and Courtney Upshaw. They were just nasty and disgusting. And good God, woman, would you shut up? I'm in the house and you loud. Jesus Christ. Excuse me. But the Falcons had the ability to do any and everything. They have variety on the defense side of the ball. Yeah. Rashid Hayman was the guy that was commanding double teams, and he was able to you know, allow Grady Jarrett again in the Super Bowl, allow Grady Jarrett to have those one-on-one opportunities. And ever since we've gotten rid of Rasheed Hateman, the Falcons have not, Grady Jarrett hasn't been the same sack guy. Yeah, gotta have that big guy in the middle that's gonna create space for everybody. Deion Jones had one of his best seasons in his first 2 years because of Rasheed Hateman was right there in the middle. Yeah, I said it. This is the stuff that a lot of people just gloss over the fact. If you go back to even the blueprint of what made that Giants, that 92, 93 Giants defense, led by the great Lawrence Taylor, Bill Parcells told you what his blueprint was. He put a big fat slob, and excuse me, but I love him. He put a big fat dude in the middle of the defense and said, you can't double Lawrence Taylor now. So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You're either gonna double, triple, or let that big fat dude wreak havoc in the middle of your offensive line, tear and wear and tear them throughout the entire game, or you're just gonna leave Lawrence Taylor one-on-one. So in that indecisiveness, as far as the offense is concerned, whether you're gonna leave a big dude like Rasheed Hateman, Jordan Davis in the middle by himself, or you just gonna take the chance and leave Lawrence Taylor one-on-one by himself. And we all know the best way to get a sack is right up the middle. The best way to get a sack is right up the middle. That's the same blueprint that's been giving Tom Brady hell for years. Immediate pressure. Tom Brady hates it. You can always duck pass. You can always double, triple a guy on the edge. That's the easy part. But pressure immediately up your face, oh, that's a problem. Especially if you're 5'10", shrimp like Kyler Murray. Joy Costanza, I said on another Falcons podcast since October that Davis is a unicorn as the draft. Taking him and they isn't reaching position don't mean a dang on thing. Trying not to cuss today, so I'm trying to be good. So when we talk about putting teams together, people love to focus just on that one particular player, whether it's Matt Ryan, whether it's Julio Jones, or if it's just a tackle. What makes successful offenses, and this is why Kurt Warner can eat a dingaling for the rest of his life. He can eat the biggest, fattest dingaling you can find. I'm sure some of you ladies, never mind. I'm gonna be good. Excuse me. Said I'm gonna be good. It's a good rant today, so I'm gonna keep it good. But Kurt Warner is the biggest fucking hypocrite there is. This dude has benefited from a complete offense. And then you will sit there in front of a computer and say, and thank you, George, for that comment. You're absolutely right. But he sits in front of a computer. I don't know if he's brain dead or whatever. But you sit in front of a computer and say with a straight face, you don't know what Matt was thinking at this particular time. Motherfucker, you had a Hall of Fame offensive lineman at left tackle. You had a Hall of Fame running back in Marshall Falk. You had two Hall of Fame wide receivers. And you up here talking about you don't know what Matt Ryan is thinking. Boy, see, this is the stuff that I'm talking about. The biggest hypocrites in the fucking universe. And you look, these are the things that I'm talking about. That Rams defense, that Rams team had a complete offense. They could throw the ball and they could just run the ball all day with Marshall Faulk. And wasn't nothing you could do about it. You could not stop them. So what are we talking about? Yeah, these are the things that we're talking about. But we want to sit up here and say, I don't know why Matt Ryan and the Falcons are struggling. We sit there with a straight face and say, I don't know why Matt Ryan is struggling. I don't know what he's thinking. When your ass had Marshall Faulk, Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, McMichael, the tight end, that great offensive line, and you sit up here with a straight face and say, I don't know why Matt Ryan is second guessing. I don't know why Matt Ryan or what Matt Ryan is thinking. Like, stop. Jesus ain't done with me yet, George. Hey, Ricky Pro was another one. And we sit up here and talk about, I don't know what's wrong with Matt Ryan and the Falcons. Are we serious? Are we serious? Are we really saying this with a straight face? You don't know what's wrong with Matt Ryan? You don't know what's wrong with the Atlanta Falcons offense? Are we really doing this, people? We don't know why the New Orleans Saints could, like, they put up 5,000 yards passing every year, but they could never get back to the Super Bowl. Like, we really playing these games, people? Are we really playing this game? As soon as the Saints changed their philosophy, they became a much better team. The only issue that they had was at coach. He will forget that he had to run the ball in order to win games. Yep. He reverted right back to his old habits, wanting to pass the ball 50 times. That's the reason why the Saints were absolutely failures in the last 5 years or so, because Sean Payton just did not want to run the ball. If he had balance, he wanted to use, Taysom Hill as his gadget player and throw 50 times. Like, that shit is all cute and it's fun to look at, but it's not going to win games. And that's ultimately why the Falcons. That's ultimately what happened to our Falcons. We was all cute and all when Matt Ryan passed for 4,000 yards, but we never had balance on either side of the football. All we wanted to do is get sacks, uh, get guys that we thought was fast and physical, draft a bunch of safeties and corners, and a bunch of wide receivers, and patchwork our offensive line, patchwork our defensive line. But it was all pretty and prissy football. Big Sam said it best. When y'all stop trying to make football pretty and just come to grips that this is an ugly, disgusting game, you'll win championships. It took the Rams 4 years to finally get the Super Bowl. And what did they do? Yeah, they went out and traded for a corner. But what they did, again, what the Rams did to get them over the hump to win championships was this. They invested in Sony Michelle. Hmm. They invested in Cam Akers. Hmm. They invested in Von Miller. Hmm. They invested in Leonard Floyd. Hmm. You see the pattern? You see the pattern, people? That's the pattern. It's right there in front of our faces. But we so in awe and enamored with these quarterbacks and these pretty ass players, we ignoring the obvious blueprint for winning championships. Running the ball and stopping the defense and stopping the run. Having the ability to do multiple things on the defensive side of the ball. So the stuff is right there in front of us. We just have to accept it. It ain't, it's no it's no secret. I don't understand why how people can't see it. We're so caught up in trying to bring in a new franchise quarterback, we don't realize what the Rams did. They brought in Von Miller and somehow they was able to get it. They brought in Leonard Floyd and somehow they was able to do it. They traded for Sona Michelle. They had Cam Akers. They had a two-headed monster in there, and somehow they were able to get it. You see, people, it's not that difficult. It really isn't that difficult. Baltimore. I'm not Baltimore, but even Buffalo. Buffalo has been sucking for years. They finally got a quarterback that runs like he's Michael Vick. They got a nice running game. They got a nice little passing game. They got an okay offensive line, but their defensive line is star-studded. They have some very good players on that defensive line that they can rotate in and out. That's why Buffalo has been consistent. That's why they got what they got. What's good, Melvin? But even you look at Tampa Bay, that's another example. It's right there before us. The reason why they won that year isn't because Tom Brady threw for 4,000 yards. Tom Brady threw like nearly 4,000 yards, and God knows, look, the dude was outstanding in this last year. Put up extraordinary numbers, but they couldn't run the ball. The Bucks couldn't run the ball, and that's why they lost. When the Bucks traded for Leonard Fournette and they had Rojo in the back, teams could not key on Tom Brady and those receivers. Balance, people, balance. That's the key to success. So if the Falcons want to win championships, we can't continue to get all these pretty quarterbacks and pretty wide receivers, pretty DBs. We got to get ugly. We got to get nasty. Vita Vey, again, this dude is not anything special when it comes down to being a pass rusher. It ain't nothing. But this dude just got $75 million because he can do one thing, two things well: create matchup problems and stop the run. The dude is a powerhouse. And you're wondering why my people like myself are trying to go all out for a guy like Jordan Davis. The blueprint is right before us. Why do you guys think Corey Peters is still in the league after all these years? Leaving the Atlanta Falcons, and he's still in the league. Why? Because he can do one thing: stop the run. When we stop ignoring the fact that football is simple. Stop the run, run the ball. Have balance on both sides of the ball. Now you can have, air out offense. I have nothing against the air read or, an offense where you're gonna pass the ball 40 times a game or an aggressive down the field offense. But that doesn't matter if you don't have a running game. If you can't run the ball, it doesn't matter. If you can't create matchup problems on the defense side of the ball and have a balanced defensive line where guys are constantly rotating, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Falcons had one of the highest scoring offenses in the history of the game, and they still lost because they couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop any damn thing. They couldn't stop the run in 98, and they couldn't stop the run in 16. Again, it's right there before you. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't stop the run. And we're still wondering what's the blueprint. We're still trying to trade every pick that we have to get a Kyler Murray. We're still trying to trade up to get quarterbacks that may not even be anything. They've shown nothing in their college career to say if they're worthy of even being drafted at a top 10 pick. So at the end of the day, you gotta stop trying to play Madden, bro. If a guy's sitting right there that you want, that you need, and he's going to add that dimension to your team, you got to get him, whoever that guy is. This is a defensive league. All that shit Cooper Cup did all that year didn't matter for shit. It didn't matter whatsoever. Didn't matter. Why? Because at the end of the day, if Aaron Donald doesn't get that sack, you're looking at the same thing from the Rams. Just couldn't get it done. Doesn't matter if Matt Stafford is able to pass the ball for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Doesn't matter. Why? Because at the end of the day, you couldn't get that sack. And that's the issue with the Atlanta Falcons and have been the Atlanta Falcons issue for quite some time. Yeah, we look good offensively. Yeah, we could put up 30 points, but we can't stop. We can't run the ball in the fourth quarter and the second half to keep the lead, and we can't stop anybody on the defensive side of the ball. That's what the Rams did. They ran the ball efficiently in the Super Bowl, and they got defensive stops. Something that the Falcons have never been able to do under Dan Quinn outside of 2016. And we're wondering why. Yeah, I don't, like I said, bro, I understand that people love a lot of these players in this draft, but I'm telling you right now, don't matter how good your 40 time is if your coach stupid. Let me repeat that. This might go over people's heads when I say this. Doesn't matter how good your 40 time is. Doesn't matter how good your tape is if your coach is fucking stupid. Doesn't matter how good these players are in the draft when you got coaches making decisions to have the special teams just look at the ball on the ground. Doesn't matter how good you are as a receiver. You could be a legendary, I'm talking about Steve Smith good, Julio Jones good. But if your coach is stupid, it don't matter. If he can't understand that running the ball in the fourth quarter is gonna help us win a championship, it don't fucking matter if you run a 4.5 or putting up 50,000, 50 fucking thousand yards in a career. Georgia Bulldogs literally won the championship with Stetson Bennett at quarterback. Just take a second to think about that. They won a they won a national championship with a 5'8" quarterback. So all he could do was run fast and occasionally drop a dime. And I mean occasionally drop a dime. Why? Because they could run the ball and stop the run. That's the secret of the Georgia Bulldogs. These are three. Let me tell you what the secret of the Georgia Bulldogs and even Alabama, LSU. The reason why they're constantly in the top is because they run the ball well, they stop the run, and they recruit those positions with depth. So just because Jordan Davis is gone, guess what? You got another beast coming in after him. Something happened to Jordan Davis, you got to worry about Devontae Wyatt. This has been the recipe for success for Alabama, LSU, and Georgia for the last 10 years or so. They won championships with just having balance. This is the first time that you really seen a quarterback like this that was flashy and Bryce Young with Alabama. This is the first year. So if it works in college, if it works in the NFL, why are we still trying to give away all of our assets? At this point, we need to build a defense, build a solid offensive line, defensive line, and run the damn ball. The quarterbacks, you can get a quarterback that's just going to be adequate. I just told you Big Ben has been okay, but Big Ben ain't been he's not a legendary Hall of Fame in my opinion. He got two of them. A lot of people don't think Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer, but he's okay. Baltimore won one with Joe Flacco. As great as Aaron Rodgers is, these guys can't get past the NFC. Why? Because they can't run the ball. That's the reason why the Packers lose because they get into these shootouts. They can't run the ball and they can't stop the run. They just lean on Aaron Rodgers to do everything and it fails every time. You need balance, people. You need to understand that football has always been about balance. Even some of the greatest offenses had balance. But everybody focused so much on, all right, you got this great quarterback, and you ignore the fact that these guys can run the ball. San Francisco 49ers, for example. That 92, 94, I believe it was, whenever Dion, like they had Ricky Wallace, the great Ricky Wallace. Why nobody talk about Ricky Wallace? He one of the best running backs in the history of the game, in my opinion, bro. Ricky Wallace was a beast. These guys can not only pass the ball, they play solid defense, but they can run the ball well. So, like I said, I guess my hour was up. I'm getting all these dang on notifications right now. But the moral of the story is gotta build the trenches. And Blizz, I hate to say it, but Atlanta is the definition of soft. All we want to do is be pretty, be prissy, and be pretty. Let's get the quarterback. Let's trade for more picks, and we just gonna have all the best skill players. Yeah, we're gonna get all these people. We're gonna get the quarterback that we finally need, and we're gonna have 10 picks, and we're gonna draft all the good line. We're gonna draft all the good wide receivers and running backs. The most talented wide receivers. Oh my God, he can get out the break and he can catch the ball and look at his 40 time and he has great hands. Ah, but what if he get hit? Ah, what if the quarterback is constantly getting sacked? Ah, what if the defense can't stop anybody? Hmm. Trenches, trenches. Football is simple, but we have these overly smart people who are trying to change the game for what it really is. When it all comes down to football, what football is moving another man against his will. It comes down to punking them out. I'm going to punk you out before you punk me out. I'm going to knock you out before you knock me out. That's what football comes down to. Everybody got a plan until they get hit in the mouth. Everybody got a plan until they get in front of a big ass Jordan Davis, a big ass Julius Peppers, a big ass Orlando Pace. Everybody got a plan until you see them big motherfuckers standing up in front of you. Your mind changes real quick when you get hit by them big motherfuckers. Intimidation is a huge factor in football. Believe that. Intimidation is everything. A lot of teams lose games before they even go in. Why? Because they know, all right, they got Vita Vea. They're not even going to try to run at him. They're not even going to try to run at Vita Vea because he's Vita Vea. They're not even going to try Tom Brady because guess what? I know the ref's going to do this. But intimidation is a huge factor of football. So if we smack a motherfucker in the mouth offensively, we smack a motherfucker in the mouth defensively, and we keep doing it over the long haul, teams are gonna be like, look, man, these damn Falcons, all they gonna do is keep running the ball, bro. I don't know if I want to do it. That's how the Falcons won. Jamal Anderson had almost 400 carries. Well, he had over 400 carries that year. Same thing with Michael Turner. Teams just did not want to hit these guys. Intimidation factor. And like I said, what if this and what if that? At the end of the day, there's only been a couple of quarterbacks in the history of the game that have not really, you know, injuries happen, bro. Injuries have slowed down a lot of quarterbacks' careers. So we can sit up here and say, what if Mariota gets hurt? Well, a lot of things can happen. That's why you want depth. That's why you want to run the ball, because if the quarterback gets hurt, you can still run the ball. You can still play defense. You see how that works? Because not everybody gonna be a Matt Ryan. Not everybody gonna be lucky as a Matt Ryan to only miss what 2, 3 games in his whole entire career. Not everybody's gonna be a Tom Brady. Not everybody's gonna be a Drew Brees where they're gonna play most of their career without actually getting hurt. So this is the reason why you have to have balance. This is the reason why you have to have a running game, a defense. Why? Because a Julio may get hurt. A Matt Ryan may get hurt. But god damn it, you can still run that rock and control that clock. See how that works, people? That's football. Sometimes your key players get hurt. Sometimes we can't keep a healthy Roddy White. I would have loved to continuously see a Julio Jones and Roddy White, Tony Gonzalez. But guess what? Your body, when your body's calling you, there ain't shit you can do about it. Them knees start barking at the end of the day. Had a long day at work. All you trying to do is sit the fuck down. And even when you're sitting down, them knees still hurting. When that body start calling, bro, ain't nothing you can do. That's why you got to have depth and guys behind that guy and behind this guy and behind that guy. So if you solely relying on the fact that you need a healthy Mariota, you've already lost as a coach. You've already lost as an organization. That's why you have to build a team the proper way and balance and depth. Depth is everything. Depth is everything. So again, this is one of those shows. Stop thinking taking a quarterback in the first round that you can't build depth later. Um, Hucklebuck, I'm not gonna get into that. Like, shut up. I'm not getting into that. Like, that's just a stupid comment. Like, that's just stupid. Just dumb. Like, why even say that? That's the stupidest crap. You don't just bring in like stop. If this man is an MVP quarterback, why would you bring in somebody? Oh, just to push him? Again, that's just wasting a draft pick. Matt Ryan is giving us 40,000. He's giving us 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns a season. Let's just bring in the quarterbacks to push him for what? So now you got a quarterback that possibly can't and isn't better than a Matt Ryan. You just got him on a roster eating up 6, 10, and then 15 and $20 million. Eating up because you want to so-called push Matt Ryan. Like that, like, bro, what are y'all thinking? Can we use our heads for a second? You just want to bring in a quarterback to push a guy that's playing well instead of building the team the proper way of drafting another defensive end, drafting another linebacker, drafting another corner, drafting another offensive lineman. You just want to draft the quarterback just so he can push Matt Ryan. That is the most idiotic way of thinking I've ever seen in my life. And it always comes for people who just want to relive the Vic era. Guess what? Vic was great at what he does. It's done. It's over with. Just like Matt Ryan's tenure is done, it's over. Get the hell over it. And I'm talking about Matt Ryan supporters and Mike Vick supporters. It's over. It's done. It's time to move on. It's time to build this team the proper way. building the foundation, defensively, offensively, running the ball, stopping the run, getting after the quarterback. You may get a diamond in the rough as a quarterback. It's possible. We've seen it before. Tom Brady is a living, he's a personification of a diamond in the rough. You don't have to always draft the quarterback in the first round. Most of the time, if you look at the history of the game, every quarter, most of the quarterbacks have been drafted and the quarterback have been bust. Most of the quarterbacks who have ever even come out of college have been bust. Not, and it's way worse. Do we got to keep up bringing up all of the bust at quarterbacks in the first rounds? Do we have to go through that again? So like I said, I appreciate you guys for tuning in, but we got to stop with this goofy shit. When you got a solid quarterback, you don't draft another quarterback just because you want him to have competition. That's how you screw up your team. Let's reward the guy that's got us an MVP by drafting a quarterback the next year. Why? So he can be pushed. Like what is that? It's just like right now. Trey Young is the leader of this team. Trey Young is the leader of the Atlanta Hawks, and let's repay him. This is what we're gonna do, Falcons fans. We're gonna repay Trey Young by trading for a Russell Westbrook and putting Trey Young on the bench. That's what we talking about. These are the stuff. These are the things that you guys are talking about. Trey Young is doing great, but since he's doing so great, but he ain't brought us a championship. Let's bring in Russell Westbrook in and put Trey on it because Trey ain't won us a championship. Because he hasn't won us a championship, we're gonna put Trey on the bench and we're gonna start Russ. Or we're gonna start KD, put Trey on the bench because KD won the championship. KD won a championship. Let's put KD in the starter and we just gonna put Trey on the bench. That's essentially what we're talking about by drafting a quarterback to push Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan hasn't been pushed. Let's draft a new quarterback. The fuck? So at the end of the day, we gotta stop. So like I said, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, these are the things we're talking about. If you see a player at that spot, whether it's at 8, whether it's at 10, whether it's at 15, I don't give a fuck about value as it pertains to where a guy is ranked in a top 30 poll constructed by a Todd McShay or whatever the hell his name is, Mel Kiper Jr. I don't give a fuck about what they top 30 is. Well, he is in the top 30 all around defensive lineman. Why would I take him at 8? Well, it don't damn matter. Especially when you have a Grady Jarrett. Does it really matter? You have a pass rusher extraordinary in Grady Jarrett. The dude can rush the passer and stop the defense, stop the run. So if you bring in a guy like a Jordan Davis or Travis Jones, like guess what? It's going to add several dimensions to your team. So now you're just not a team where you get up. All you got to do is run the ball on. Teams know in order to stop Grady Jarrett, just run the ball. That's it. If you want to stop Grady Jarrett, let's just run the ball. If you worried about your quarterback not being able to get sacked, yeah, just run the ball. Teams know that. So if you want to get the best out of a Grady Jarrett, guess what? Maybe it's wise to get a guy that can stop the run. Not because he's a top 50 or top 10, that goofy crap. Oh, he ran a 4.2 in the draft. This offensive lineman run a 4.4, 4.5. So at the end of the day, you draft guys to complete your team. Not if he has the ability to play 4 downs or 3 downs or 2 downs. Because some of the best players in the league in the history of the game have all been specialists. There's been guys that we know who have been one of the best pass rushers in the history of the game that have only been pass rushers. They can't stop the run. At one point, Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis were nothing more than pass rushers. They couldn't stop the run at all. All teams would do was just run the ball down the Indianapolis Colts' throat. And that's with Robert Mathis and Dwight Freeney in their prime. Mm-hmm. Yep. All you had to do was just run the ball on the Colts. That was the recipe. Just run the ball. Control the clock. So you keep that man on the bench. You keep Mathis and Freeney on the bench. That's the recipe. So if you got a guy like Jordan Davis, who's one of the best run stoppers, well, you'll be able to take that dimension away from your opponent. They can't run the ball on you now. So teams will have to pass the ball, and then you get more opportunities to guys like Casey Hayward, more opportunities to guys like AJ Terrell, more opportunities for guys like Isaiah Oliver. You see how that works, people? Stop focusing on having multiple pass rushers. What you need on your team to have the ability to adjust to any style of football. Falcons can't win. Falcons were never able to win ugly games. Falcons, one of the reasons why they lost to Philadelphia so many times because they had to play in ugly games where they had to run the ball and they couldn't stop the run. Got to have the ability to adjust to any style of football. That's why we lost the Super Bowl. We couldn't run the ball. No, we stopped running the ball. We couldn't run the ball anymore. Tevin Coleman had an ankle injury, so he was slow, and Devontae Freeman was just, but that's a whole nother story. The ability to adjust to any style of football is what wins championships. It's what wins games. So at the end of the day, I appreciate everybody joining me. But at the end of the day, the recipe for success is running the ball, stopping the run, playing solid, being able to adjust to your opponent, being able to stop whatever your opponent does. So in closing, I'll end with this. Would I want the best quarterback in the draft? Do I want another franchise quarterback? Absolutely. I would not mind having another Matt Ryan at the helm. or the best quarterback there is in the draft. Absolutely. But I'm not willing to sacrifice our team again just so we can have a good quarterback and to repeat the same mistakes that we had before. Not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not trading everything so I can just repeat the same goofy crap that we had before. So until this team shows that they can run the ball effectively, stop the run, and play solid defense, like the great Dean P said, he wants to be good, he wants to be great, and not okay. Yeah, I'm not willing to trade everything that I have. I mean, that's the blueprint of what the Colts did. That's what they did. They drafted well. They ran them. They went back to drafting quality offensive linemen, quality defensive linemen, running the ball well, and then they got that, and they went out and got their quarterback. The Carson Wentz thing didn't work, but the Matt Ryan thing, they went out and got their quarterback. Now they're in a position that they can win a championship. They have pretty much. You talk about a perfect team right now. The Colts is probably a perfect team. You don't always have to trade everything to get your quarterback immediately. Sometimes, you know, building a team the proper way is the best way to go about it. And George running the ball and stopping the run is like Blue Jay. Never goes out of style and works with anything. Boy, if that ain't a great comment, I'm a screenshot that one. I like that comment. Appreciate that, George. I mean, that's what like I said, Baltimore doing that now. Before they even had Lamar, they established the defense. They established the run. They drafted offensive linemen, defensive linemen. Same thing with Pittsburgh. Offensive linemen, defensive linemen, and then they're looking for their quarterback now. The Patriots. They built the offensive line. They built the defensive line. Now they're looking for. They got their quarterback at Mac Jones, and now they can focus on making him a better quarterback because they already have a solid team. Buffalo in this position where they got their quarterback, they had their defense. Now they got their quarterback, and now they're in position. But all those teams built the defense first. They built the foundation, and then they got their quarterback. Built the foundation, then they got their quarterback. So let's hold off on trying to trade all our picks to get a Kyler Murray when we've yet to set the foundation offensively and defensively. That's the point. At the end of the day, that's the point. So I appreciate everybody for joining me. Um, get back to your regular scheduled programming. You guys continue to support your boy Matt Mike on a quest to 7K. Really, this quest to 10K. I had that 10K real soon. But everybody you know, who is always, tuned in to us, whether since the beginning or you just found our channel, man. Um, I truly appreciate you guys. Love all y'all. Y'all be safe out there, man. It's a crazy world right now. Still wear your mask, man. Still seeing a few cases here and there. But you guys continue to wear your mask. Um, pray for one another. Um, and look out for your peeps. Like I said, it's crazy out here, dog. Be safe. And that's all I got to say about that. You ain't got to go home, but you got to get the hell up out of here. Deuces.